So this is the 2310 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting on the internet under the theme of Baby Angel Geronimo editions. These Baby Angel Geronimo editions cover everything that we cover, and Baby Angel Geronimo is the name, universal name of the world's most innocent witness to the most evil regime in succession put in place in the United Kingdom, in the name of the United Kingdom. The latest representative of the evil regime being Boris Johnson. This is too early for us to consider the conduct of Liz Truss in relation to the depravity shown against baby Angel Geronimo by Boris Johnson, George Evil Eustace Injustice, and the evil woman called Christine Middlemiss. Christine Middlemiss has been in post at DEFRA, the so-called UK Central Government Department, as the so-called chief vet. In that position, Christine Evil Middlemiss has been allowed to confect, to manufacture, to invent over 4 years serial lies against baby Angel Geronimo. Lies that have been intended to defame, to demonize, to condemn the world's most perfectly healthy baby Angel Geronimo. So everything that is done in the name of the state and is unjust, cruel, and corrupt is covered by what the DEFRA has been doing, what Boris Johnson has been doing, what Christian Middlemiss has been doing against the baby Angel Geronimo. He's the baby, he's the angel, and his name is Geronimo. And he stands as a witness to the evil let loose on the planet Earth in a space called the United Kingdom. So this is the edition that is timed at 2310 hours GMT on Tuesday, the 20th of September 2022. This is the first day that marks the end of the almost 2 weeks of brainwashed mourning conducted on a grand scale in Little England around the passing of Brenda, also known as Queen Elizabeth II, and the coming into, quote, the throne of Brian, Brenda's son Brian, also known as King Charles III. There is a piece in the Sky News Network, or is there? No, it's on the Times newspaper online, which refers to the hatred in the United Kingdom media and the establishment against Meghan Markle. We shall be talking about that in due course, not necessarily in this edition, but in due course. And there is also a piece somewhere on the internet suggesting that Oprah Winfrey has been hinting at a reconciliation between the Duke of Sussex and Duchess of Sussex and the rest of the UK so called royal family. Well, if that is the case factually, then it can only be based on Oprah Winfrey's connections, her close links with Meghan Markle, whenever that began, but it is very close now because of the heavy reliance that the dirty digger Murdoch's media and the corrupt Daily Mail has placed on that relationship for Meghan Markle's appearance on mainstream platforms and attracting the media attention. It is something that the racists at the Buckingham Palace that Brenda has been presiding over the last 70 years, they never, I don't think they ever understood or thought about the possibility that Harry and Meghan would get hold of a bigger media platform than anything the entire royal family had got access to. Oprah Winfrey is not just a name. Oprah Winfrey is the extension of the American media kind of operations. She is shameless, she is immoral, she is corrupt, and she is opportunistic. And she is absolutely grotesque in indulging in the way that the other billionaires indulge in and are shameless in indulging in. For all those reasons, it is not easy to match the resources that Oprah Winfrey has access to. Oprah Winfrey and Barack Obama are two instances of disgrace that are immoral and have disgraced the fight for justice against racism, imperialism, slavery. For all those reasons, Oprah Winfrey threatens the counterparts racists in the UK because they cannot dismiss her. She knows every little dirty trick that they know. And it is Meghan Markle who has got hold of Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey is loving it, the relationship. She has got a real royal in her connection, in her club, namely Harry and his married wife, Meghan Markle, etc., etc. So we shall be continuing. We are not impressed by Oprah Winfrey's corruption, nor have we ever been impressed by the slavery and mental slavery and servitude of Barack Obama, the crook. How dare the criminal construct a multi-million pound mansion? How dare the criminal do that? We shall now move over to the continent of Asia and see what is happening in Pakistan, where Imran Khan has still been talking about revolution. The Hakiki Azadi, meaning that the independence of Pakistan from the British that started in August 1947. Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. To what extent Imran Khan remains committed to that slogan, he of course remains to be seen. But the fact that he has been saying this slogan for as long as he has been saying it is in itself an event, a unique event that is really quite apart from many things happening in the USA and other parts of the world. That slogan, Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah, is really shaking all the Hindutva morons in India. The last thing the Hindutva morons, the criminal against humanity, Modi and the criminal against humanity, Amit Shah, the very last thing they wanted to hear anywhere was La ilaha illallah being shouted in the way that it has been being shouted in Pakistan. Apart from the fact that there has always been the surreptitious series of wars done daily through the Indian media against the Matlab Kya Pakistan La ilaha illallah. This slogan is an assertion that nobody imagined, not even Mamta Banerjee. Mamta Banerjee is the nearest Democrat that can be found in India at the present time. Even she could not imagine such a revolutionary breath of fresh air that must be coming to her ears every time Pakistan ka matlab kya is said, because she fought a battle. It's not over yet, but she fought a battle in the northeastern states where the local ordinary native residents have been de-Indianized by the Hindutva mob under a census, under a registration completely confected in aggravation to the existing anti-Muslim instruments that have been overladen on the Indian constitution, Indian state for the last 75 years. So Mamata Banerjee fought a battle alone among the chief ministers that are not BJP enslaved. And she fought the battle, and that battle has become significant only to the extent that it has made the point. It has not defeated the Hindutva mob, but it has made the point. In contrast to that, Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh has been completely quiet. Precisely the reason why the Awami League can never be called the party for an independent Bangladesh. It is inconsistent with all the principles and values of independence, and it never was. Sheikh Mujib was an instrument. He was not the leader, because if he was the leader, he would have led it. He has not led it. He has not received the surrender of the Pakistan army on the 16th of December 1971. He was himself in prison, and the Pakistanis surrendered to India. Jagjit Singh Arora and his colleagues were the ones who received the signatures from Niazi, the Pakistan Lieutenant General, who was the commander of the Eastern Command, which is, in other words, the command that corresponded to East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh on the 16th of December 1971, instantaneously, along with the signature of surrender. There is no evidence in that surrendered instrument that there is a Mukti Bahini or the Liberation Army. We shall be talking more about that and investigating whatever happened to the Mukti Bahini and whatever was happening. And how many criminals have been given exemptions under the covers of the so-called Mukti Bahini, murderers, rapists in Bangladesh. And in contrast to the Bangladeshi version of the so-called Jamaat-e-Islami, the Pakistani version, especially in Sindh, has become almost audible and visible. Now, the Pakistani Jamaat-e-Islami should be ashamed, should be absolutely ashamed of the role that it played in colluding with the Pakistan army in 1971, during which time We now know, we later knew, we knew after the events, this army was committing mass rapes, mass murders, and massacres of absolutely innocent people in East Pakistan. And the Jamaat Islami was complicit. The Jamaat Islami should be prosecuted for its complicity with the Pakistan army, as should the Jamaat Islami in East Pakistan become prosecuted. But instead of their being prosecuted, they have been subjected to a staged parade to suit the political propaganda for the Awami League. That has not brought justice to the people who have been massacred, raped, and violated in other indescribable ways. So we shall be talking about this in due course, and we shall also update on the remarks made by that speaker at the seminar, short seminar held in Lahore of the Lahore Bar Association, where this man alone among all the speakers in the last 52 years has said that the real Pakistan was East Pakistan. Think about that. For 52 years, they have not said the truth, but that is the truth. And as I have been saying, that is the truth and has been the truth since 1905, which is what the man referred to that year. If it wasn't for the events of 1905, there would be no Bangladesh today. But does Sheikh Hasina have the brains to comprehend that, to understand that? Does any of her so-called advisors have the brains? Does the overhyped, overrated Kamal Hussein, the so-called constitutional law expert, have the brains to understand that? We shall be talking about these, updating on these, and these are all going to be contents that we are contributing independently, originally, and we have been doing this right from the word go. This is the Khoodeelaar television channel, Baby Angel Geronimo editions, coming to the viewer, whoever the viewer is or was or will be, timed at 23:10 hours GMT, within quotation marks UK, on Tuesday, the 20th of September 2022. Written by me, Muhammad Haq, presented by me, Muhammad Haq, edited by me, Muhammad Haq. Baby Angel Geronimo Editions, Khoodeelaar television channel. Now, we talked about the events in May 1994 that took place in the Cannon Street Road in May 1994. Cannon Street Road is the main road, main street, on which the Wellstead House is situated. And there was a siege on the first floor. On the first floor of the Wellstead House, there was a siege, there was a hostage situation, and it was a hostage situation created by the brother of the young woman who was being held hostage. And I resolved that by watching and supervising and interfering and intervening until the siege ended about late evening on that day. I got hold of number 10 Downing Street directly by making a phone call from a shop in Cannon Street Road and getting the specialized officers being sent by number 10 Downing Street or the office of the Prime Minister, John Major, to Cannon Street, where I had a meeting with them. And I demanded that no bullets should be fired and nobody should be killed as a way of ending the siege. And no bullet was fired. That was done by me. Me, not a minister of the government. Me, not a member of parliament. Me not a member of the council, me not the leader of the council, but me, Muhammad Haq, doing the campaign, defending the community. Now I've been defending the community in the East End of London directly for 50 years almost now. And before I came here, I began defending the community from the 13th of June 1963. And the defense of the community includes everything. And the defense of the community has never, ever been dependent on my seeking or getting or hoping or expecting or even accepting any public money or private money for that matter. And it has not been dependent on, it has been dependent entirely on ethics and morality, spirituality, universality. Just that the saint Shah Abdul Ali, sorry, it's not Abdul Karim, Shah Abdul Ali, my great grandfather, conducted himself. He was the saint and he was based in Greater Chandrapur in the Gulabganj Thana in Silot in Bangladesh, situated to the east, on the east bank of the river Kushiara. And he did that. He lived more than 100 years ago. And he was a traveler, he was an educator, educationalist, and above all, he was a spiritualist and a spiritual healer. And he healed literally thousands of people. And my great grandmother, the wife of Shah Abdul Ali's son, is the source of all the information about the Ved Shah that I rely on. And my great grandmother, Musammat Tayyibun Nasa Khatun, told me that I was the representative of my great grandfather and that I would be doing what he did, and which is exactly what I've been doing, defending the community in the East End of London. I featured in the main state television news on a date in January 1970. Now, January 1970 was still officially part of Pakistan. And the lead story was me, featured my speaking at a gathering. Now, that gathering took place at the International Students Hall of the University of Dhaka. And the reason I was featured there was not something I had anticipated or expected. I did speak there, but I had no idea that they would be recording it for the news bulletin for that day. And the seminar that I addressed by accident or by default or by not planning. This was a seminar this was a gathering of all the vice chancellors and principals of the institutions from across East Pakistan. Now, they were assembled there as part of the, I think, operation by the Pakistan regime to find a way of controlling the political activities, agitations against the Pakistan establishment, Pakistan military, whatever. So these principals and vice principals and vice chancellors were talking about controlling the political expression of the students. When I observed this from the periphery at one stage, when I arrived there, I was not invited. I shouldn't have been invited because I was not a principal nor a vice chancellor, but I was just a very thoughtful individual observer, correspondent, commentator, whatever. So when I found the proceedings were moving very slowly intellectually, from the back of the hall, I shouted, "Objection to this." And instead of being given an answer, I was invited to come onto the main platform from where I spoke. And I'm not quoting myself, but I spoke essentially about the duties of the institutions, moral, ethical, and political duties, not duties as connected with any political party or any particular manifesto. But I said that the truth should be told and honesty should be asserted, which is the theme that is my theme, my life activities theme. So a summary of that was, of course, used by them, and they showed me as the main person walking. They must have filmed me while I was walking to the stage. So that was in January 1977. That is 52 years ago, 52, nearly 53 years ago. So when I spoke there, I spoke with my own moral authority that actually superseded, overtook any authority that all these combined vice chancellors and chancellors and principals of the country had at that stage, at that moment. What does it show? It shows exactly what I was capable of doing, I was doing every time I intervened. That is the kind of result that happened. The impact was spontaneous and instantaneous at big events intellectually. Just like across the road, across the race course, from that, this is the International Students Hall that I'm talking about as the venue. Now, across the kind of complex building complexes, and beyond that was the race course. And beyond that, on the other side, was situated the Institute of Engineers, where about 4 years previously or 3 years previously, I had again, without any plan, without any intention, addressed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. 9 questions I addressed to him. Unlike the event at the International Students Hall, this particular encounter was not televised as far as I could see or I can see, but it was worth televising and remembering and analyzing, which is what I've been doing. And what I said to Bhutto had far reaching impact than what I said in January 1970. Because my intervention against Zulfikar Ali Bhutto made sure that the Awami League survived as a political party at all. Because had Zulfikar Ali Bhutto been able to establish his political activities in East Pakistan, the Awami League would have been completely different. It would have been reduced absolutely considerably. And the events that took place in the race course and elsewhere later would have been different. So we shall be talking more about all of those. And one of the things that two things that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto did, quite apart from his idiocy and his inability to answer me on 9 separate occasions at the Institute of Engineers, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto did two stupid things during 1971. He addressed the United Nations General Assembly, and he was verbally quite aggressive. He was verbally aggressive, but intellectually he was not as coherent as he should have been, or as he could have been if he actually knew the facts. He stated a series of words and phrases of defiance against the United Nations demands. But those were empty defiance. That is the one thing that I noticed he was being stupid. And the second thing was his greeting of the, Indian manipulated hijack of a helicopter from India to Pakistan. And Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's stupidity in getting to the aircraft and greeting the so called escaping pilot or whatever. That was absolutely stupid and idiotic. Something that then Indian Prime Minister Indira Priyadarshini Gandhi. Now that is a Priyadarshini is a killer word. Priyadarshini, my goodness. Even Ian Mikado, one of the MPs in Tower Hamlets, addressed Indira Gandhi in her absence as Madame Gandhi. All these so-called left-wing British Labour Party MPs and politicians were absolutely charmed and fascinated by Indira Priyadarshini with her Priyadarshini looks, while her father was having it off with Mountbatten's wife, Edwina Mountbatten. Now, if Zulfikar Ali Bhutto had the intelligence, he would not even recognize this pilot's escapade, and he would have allowed some lowly officials to deal with it. Instead, he went there to the aircraft and he gave Indira Gandhi the biggest propaganda coup that she needed. And she immediately cancelled all Pakistan aeroplanes for flights over India to East Pakistan. Nobody has talked about that, but Bhutto was a giant moron. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was a giant, absolute idiot. And for Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to come across as being more intelligent than anybody else and the various talks that they held in the beginning of 1971 in Dhaka is astonishing. So that's my role. I would have defeated Bhutto at the first talk, as I am defeating him now, his so-called legacy, the moron. And look at the way that his grandson, Belawal Bhutto, is being mocked and ridiculed by Imran Khan on a daily basis. When I got hold of, through my assistant in 1976, my assistant, when I was editing the newspaper that I was elected to edit in 1976, I got hold of Benazir Bhutto's office at the Oxford Union, and I attempted through my particular employee to have her interrogated about what her aims were, etc., etc. Benazir Bhutto was an idiot. She did not answer. And when she took the power in Pakistan, she did that on artificial, superficial basis. It is a tragedy that she was murdered. It is, of course, suggested that Zardari had a hand in murdering her, having her murdered. Whoever eventually will be identified as having murdered Benazir Bhutto should be given the full force of the punishment that they deserve. She should not have been murdered, nor should Sheikh Mujib been murdered. These people should have been politically opposed, politically diagnosed. Benazir Bhutto, being the daughter of Zulfikar Bhutto, had a duty absolute central duty to the people of East Pakistan that had been, the innocent people of East Pakistan that had been murdered, violated, attacked, brutalized, raped, and slaughtered. But she didn't. She didn't discharge the duty. It has been part of the myth about Benazir Bhutto that she was a sexy woman at Oxford. I mean, what on earth did that have with her being in political power? Did she have the brain? Did she have the brains? Did she have the actual consciousness? The duties and the obligations to do the duties to the people of the families, the individuals that had been raped, violated, murdered, massacred. She didn't, nor did her father. In fact, her father was the one who, of course, confronted Shah Mujibur the Awami League, and who denied the December 1970 election results, who created the crisis. So, what we have to do, I have to do, is ask Imran Khan again and again, confront the facts, man. If you are better than Zardari, if you are better than the Bhuttos, then come on. Explain why you have been silent about the military's brutalities and violence and massacre and murders of innocent East Pakistani civilians. If anyone was confronting the Pakistan army at the time, according to international law, the Pakistan army or the military was entitled to defend itself against any such confrontation. So I'm making a distinction. What did the innocent victims, children, men, women, and ordinary adults do to be attacked in the way that they were attacked? And they have been attacked according to the archives and the evidence. So these are the things that Imran Khan has not been talking about. He is talking about Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. That is demonstrably a very emotional, very effective slogan that can really kind of galvanize people in a electrifying way, which is why he's using it. But that's not going to be the lasting event or effect. He has to go beyond, and he has to go beyond his now looking at all of it, infantile career as a cricketer. His career as a cricketer was not the foundation stones for a political role. No way. He can kind of get satisfaction by recalling the wonderful days of victory and all the rest of it. But that's not comparable. His relative, either cousin or uncle, the Lieutenant General Niazi, was directly involved. What has Imran Khan to say about his relative Niazi's role in 1971 in East Pakistan? And what conversations did Imran Khan have with Niazi before Niazi died in 2004? What did he learn? What did he want to learn about what the Pakistan military did against the innocent civilians in East Pakistan in 1971? And if he didn't talk to Niazi about it, why didn't he talk about any of it with Niazi? 2004 was well into Imran Khan's political career. I took my mother and my siblings to a village called Purushpal in the Biani Bazar, Thana area. From Greater Sundarpur, we went across the field and we went to Purushpal. And the reason why we aimed for Purushpal is one of my father's sisters was married in a village in Purushpal. So we went to her house and we stayed there mainly for a week or so before we returned to Chandrapur. And the reason why we went there was because of that particular period. There was a rumor that reached our village, the Greater Chandrapur, that the Pakistan military was about to land or arrive in Dhaka, because Dhaka was the place where the road transport linked the main part of the country, and it didn't reach Chandrapur from Dhaka because the road link was yet to be built. So the military, if they were to come to as far as Chandrapur, they would have to do that on foot, which would take them some time. So we assumed that the military had already arrived in Dhaka, and by the time they arrived in Chandrapur, we'd have reached Purushpal. So it would take the same time or slightly similar amount of time. That is how things were. There was no sign at any stage, any time, anywhere, any place of any Mukti Bahini. Neither in Purushpal nor in Chandrapur. Never. Never in the whole of the period that I was there. So all the accounts about the various heroic activities need to be held to account, had to be scrutinized item by item. I had an encounter with this one of the Mukti Bahini so-called alleged ex-commanders who became deployed as the High Commissioner in London, in the UK, Bangladesh High Commissioner in the UK. I had the encounter quite typically. It happened at the Montefiore, no, it happened at the Adult Education Institute in Mardul Street off Commercial Road. And this man had just arrived in the UK as the new High Commissioner for Bangladesh to the UK. And typically, the mainly Siloti speaking, Siloti background community activists had organized a reception for him at the Adult Education Institute, which is what the Siloti once do for any Bengalis coming to the UK. That is the relationship of Gulami mentality that Imran Khan has been condemning. Now, these Gulami mentality showing individuals claim to be Silotis, but they don't behave as Silotis when they suck up to the Bengalis. Now, they thought that this newly appointed Bangladesh High Commissioner to the UK was bigger than me, intellectually, morally, ethically, in terms of anything else that related to the existence of the community, the creation of the community, the diagnostic, demographic mobilization and the identification that I had been engaged in doing for the community as the UK Bangladeshis. So this man was sat on a table, and as I have been doing things before he himself became Balik, I had been trying to take pictures of the gathering, not knowing who he was or bothering to know. He was physically even smaller than John Biggs, I think, or shorter than John Biggs. So physically, it was not something that was a compelling, kind of attractive figure. But he pointed his finger and directed me towards him with his fingers pointing. And my response was to say words to the effect that, "Who the hell are you?" And words to that effect. And I gave a speech, or I was in the middle of delivering a speech to this moron. So, what did he do? Instead of him saying anything, I was then physically approached, and I was kind of being pled to by two of the individuals present. One is Shahabuddin Bilal, and another one, I can't exactly remember, but two of them said, "Uncle, please." They didn't say stop, they said, "Uncle, please." So I stopped my speech for their sake, Bilal's sake and the other one's sake. Now there is a serious item of evidence there. How dare this moron calculate or assume that the people in Tower Hamlets in the UK, in Bangladesh, consisted of people that he could do like that, order like that. Obviously, he had not heard of me. And if he had heard of me, he had heard the wrong things. So that event was not as they had planned. It was not a success, it was a disaster. And he never came back to the east end of London from the Bangladesh High Commission for the duration, the rest of his tenure. There was another one before him, I think, in post. He was not a military man, but he was known as Minuduha. And he was rumored to have had an affair, or was rumored to be having an affair with a woman called Lily Khan. Now, the woman called Lily Khan was given a job by the racists in Tower Hamlets as the principal of that adult education institute. Lily Khan was a crook, and all the others that were involved with her were crooks. And a man called Khalilur Rahman, who was employed at the Council for Tower Hamlets, Citizens of Tower Hamlets, which is race equality in Tower Hamlets now, he was employed as a race relations officer. For some reason, all to do with him himself. I don't have any kind of privileged private information about him. Lily Khan was a victim of Khalilur Rahman's daily diatribe and daily propaganda as to how many times she had met Minuduha and how many times she had had whatever inappropriate behavior she was alleged by Khalilur Rahman to have had with him. By that time, Lily Khan was, of course, a woman beyond the age of 60. And she didn't come across to me as aesthetically attractive. So, quite why the sitting High Commissioner of Bangladesh to the UK would have anything to do with her sexually remained a mystery to me. But it fascinated me to observe the physical excitement that Khalilur Rahman appeared to experience whenever he mentioned the alleged affair between the two of them. Now, that showed the absurdity and irrelevance of the Adult Education Institute. Now, going over to the Council of Citizens of Tower Hamlets, where Khalilur Rahman was officially employed, look at the behavior of Joe Hunt, the man, the West Indian Standing Conference man, the Notting Hill man, who wrote the definitive leaflet, The Police Nigger Hunt in Notting Hill. Now, that was in the 1960s that Joe Hunt wrote that book. But that was it. Joe Hunt didn't have a political manifesto to mobilize the community, even the West Indian part of the population. So, what do? They gave Joe Hunt a kind of excuse of a job, which was to sit on a chair or in a chair in a place, little place called the Citizens of Tower Hamlets, Council of Citizens of Tower Hamlets. And I became totally dedicated to factually examining Joe Hunt's daily behavior for about 18 months, based on which I can now, well, I did say before, but I can now continue to say what I am going to say. He was a vegetable sitting there in the chair, and every attempt, and I think that anyone who has listened to me or has correspondence with me or has conversed with me would agree that I'm an original conversationalist covering original topics and issues and whatever. All my skills and all my efforts at applying my skills at conversations with Joe Hunt, with the aim of establishing what on earth he was doing, sitting there all day, they were sabotaged by Joe Hunt, failing to answer or refusing to answer. It made the task very difficult for me, even more difficult for me to understand, as Joe Hunt, even indoors, would wear very dark glasses. So I couldn't see his eye movements. Now, when he stood up, Joe Hunt was more than 6 foot tall. So if he stood up in a group of people and he was photographed, then people would think that he amounted to something, but he didn't. Intellectually, this man who was credited with being a campaigner about police racism aimed at the West Indian community in Notting Hill area, he was a spent force. And he appeared to be married to a white woman much younger than him, who looked much younger than him, and who would come daily in a car drive. She would drive and she would pick him up. I think she would drop him as well in the morning. But whenever she dropped him, would have been too early for me to arrive on the scene. So I only witnessed the times that this woman picked him up in the car. There was a mixed race child visible while she was doing the picking up Joe Hunt. And the woman was totally discreet, totally, absolutely silent about any issues. Unlike the woman that had the affair with the now late Shitanandan. Shitanandan was a Sri Lankan man who was given the kind of excuse of a job by the racists at the Institute of Race Relations. His name is Shivanandan, but I call him Shit Anandan. Shit Anandan was a very disrespectful, ungrateful moron. But the Guardian thought he was the sage. Shitanandan insulted a woman in 1978 in front of me at a weekend event held at the university, the Polytechnic of Middlesex Polytechnic. That happened weeks after Altavali was murdered. But that event had nothing to do with Altavali's murder being the subject. It was a general kind of weekend for discussing the bourgeois type of anti racism. One of the speakers and participants was the playwright David Edgar. These people are totally devoid of intellectual depth. The so called white left is completely devoid. But on that occasion, in June 1978, I noticed Shitanandan insulting a woman because she had dared to question one of these things that he had said in his spiel as a speaker. And instead of answering the woman's legitimate and well articulated question, Shitanandan accused her of not being married to him, as if that was the condition for him to reply to her question, that she had to be married to him. How the fuck? And this Shitanandan has been celebrated by the liars in the Guardian as the sage. And the Shitanandan operated the Institute of Race Relations for decades by barring people access to it. Why am I talking about Shitanandan? Because he was effectively married, that is to say, sleeping with this white woman, Jenny something. And this Jenny was the racist instrument that hardcore racists kind of recognized when Shitanandan made contracts for funding and whatever other things. So, unlike the Jenny, the Shitanandan was not married to or having sex with the woman that had the audacity to ask him the question at the Middlesex Polytechnic event. Anyone who wants to know why I call him Shitanandan should know that by now. Why I call him Shitanandan. The ending of the siege in Cannon Street Road, the siege in Wellstead House in May 1994, was one of the things that I did. I have got, as I said, an inheritance, a legacy from the saint Shah Abdul Ali. And I apply that and I tell the truth and it works. I told John Major's office and I told the security people that no shot should be fired and the siege should be ended peacefully. And it was. And the boy was arrested. And when he was processed for prosecution, general kind of routine thing, prosecution at the initial hearing at the or appearance at the Thames Magistrates Court on the Bow Road, I found astonishingly that this boy's family, his relations, including his sister, I think, were being kind of advised. Notice this, advised by a teenager called Nasir. Now, this boy Nasir was not anywhere near the Cannon Street Road on the day. So, how did he manage to become their advisor? And what qualification, what knowledge, what authority did he have? Answer is that the Nasir was being groomed as a criminal by Kumar Murshid, who escaped being convicted by an elaborate manipulation of the evidence that included the manipulation of the evidence by embroiling this same Nasir in Kumar Murshid's criminality. So Kumar Murshid plotted to literally hijack and rob the work that I had done and pretend to be the campaigner. He was not anywhere near the scene. So I'll be developing these facts further in due course. What happened was Abbas Elias Halal, as leader of Travelers Council at the time, when he decided to authorize the investigation, criminal investigation into the behavior of Kumar Murshid, that included Nasir. He did that quite independently of anything to do with Canonseed Road. But I think that fate had a way of catching up with Kumar Murshid and Nasir, because Nasir went to jail and Kumar Murshid just about escaped. But Kumar Murshid never recovered from the details of the allegations that are still on the record against him and against the other criminals involved in the Millennium Project, whatever, operated from the Montefiore Center at the time. So, as I said, Kumar Murshid should be expecting a series of legal claims against him based on his thefts, series of thefts. That one, as well as his appearances on the BBC Newsroom Southeast, falsely claiming that he was related to Quddus Ali. He was never anywhere near Quddus Ali. I created the movement in defense of Quddus Ali, and I spent months in Quddus Ali's house every day. And I did all the other things. Kumar Murshid is a liar. He's a criminal liar who has been given platform by the corrupt Siloti speaking morons. এই ফুয়ান হলটি জিদে বরা কোনো বেঙ্গলি কোনো ফাইন যদি তারা অগুর ফাও ধরইন আর অগুরে সার্ভ করেন আর তারা মনে করেন যে অজ্ঞ তারারে রেস্কিউ করব মোহাম্মদ অকর কম্পিটিশন থাকে এই মাখাল ফুয়াইন আমি তোমরা লোকে কম্পিটিশন করার কোনো দরকার কোনো দিন নাই তোমরা 14 গোষ্ঠী যদি তোমরা খবর থাকি আনো তবুও কোনো গো আমার লোকে কম্পিট করতে পারতা না মাখালের ফুয়াইন কিন্তু তোমরা সিলোটি বেজ্জত খরকিত লাগি কুমার মুর্শিদ ইজ এ থিফ হে যখন আরো বেটা রেস্টুরেন্ট ক্যাপচার করলো সেন্ট্রাল লন্ডন এই সময়ও সিলোটি ফুয়াইনতে তারে সাহায্য করছে ই ফুয়াইনতে জানেন তার নাম কিটা তারারে কত দিছে কুমার মুর্শিদ আমি জানি না কিন্তু কুমার মুর্শিদা তারারে পয়সা দিছে আর তারারে গুন্ডা হিসেবে ইউজ করছে কুমার মুর্শিদর মা হইল আওয়ামী লীগের কোন অবস্থায়ও জগন্নাথপুরের কোনো মানুষের লগে তার সম্পর্ক হওয়ার কোনো কথা নাই বালাগঞ্জের কোনো মানুষের লগে তার কোনো সম্পর্ক হওয়ার কথা নাই অথচ হে বেইমানি করছে বিবিসি নিউজ রুম সাউথ ইস্টও অন্তত হে 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 বার এপিয়ার করছে আর সবসময় তারে ডেসক্রাইব করছে বিবিসি নিউজ রুম সাউথ ইস্টে যে হে কুদ্দুস আলীর কুটুম এই বেইমানের ফুয়া জগন্নাথপুরের মানুষের লোকে তোর কুটুমিতা কিলা হইল? এই বেইমানের ফুয়ায় আমার বিরুদ্ধে মাত ছড়াইছে সিলটি জিদালা ফুয়াইনদের সাহায্য লইয়া। এই বেইমানের ফুয়াইন আমি কুমার মসজিদরে লিগ্যাল নোটিস দিয়ার আর তোমরা দিব, তোমরা যদি শক্তি থাকে, তোমরার সাহস থাকে, তো তোমরা ওলা আমি যেলা ব্রডকাস্ট করিয়া তোমরা ওলা পাবলিকলি ব্রডকাস্ট করিয়া ডিনাই করো, নাইলে আমার চ্যালেঞ্জ করো অন দি ফ্যাক্টস। তোমরা সন্তারিখ দিয়া যে মোহাম্মদ কেউ তারিখে ওলা ওলা কইছেন আমরারে, আর আমরা কইয়ার যে তাইন আসলে একটা কইতা পারেন না, কারণ তাইন মোর্শেদে বেইমানি করছে এটা হাসা, আর তাইন দুইশ করছেন, বাদ কাম করছেন। কিতা বাদ কাম করছি বন্দি ফুয়াইন কইতে হইব, কোন জায়গাত করছি, কোন দিন করছি। আমি বাংলাদেশের যেসব জায়গাত গেছি, তোমরা অকলটি 14 গোষ্ঠী কোনো যাওয়া সম্ভব নাই। আর তোমরা আইসো লন্ডন, তোমরা যাইবার কথা না, তোমরা সিলেটও চিনো না প্রপারলি। আমি ইন্ডিয়ার যেসব জায়গাত গেছি তোমরা চিনো না ইতা। কই তোমরা যদি বিশ্বাস করো না ফুয়াইন, মাখাল ফুয়াইন, বেইমান ফুয়াইন, জিদুয়া ফুয়াইন, 1977 যে লন্ডন কমনওয়েলথ হেডস অফ গভর্নমেন্ট মিটিং হয়েছিল। এই মিটিংও একবার নাই, দুইবার নাই, তিনবার নাই। এই মিটিং পাবলিকলি হেল্ড নিউজ কনফারেন্সও আমি অন দি রেকর্ড প্রশ্ন করছি জিয়াউর রহমান রে, তখন বাংলাদেশের প্রেসিডেন্ট, আর মুরারজি দেসাই রে, ইন্ডিয়ার প্রাইম মিনিস্টার। মাঘালর প্রাইম তোমরা কোন 14 গোষ্ঠীর কোন গুয়ে জিয়াউর রহমানের লগে কোনো প্রশ্ন করছিল নি কোনো তার, আর মুরারজি দেশাইয়ের লগে তো মাতার কোনো প্রশ্ন উঠে না। মাঘালর ফুয়াইন তোমরা আমার বিরুদ্ধে মাতকিতা দিয়া বেইমানের ফুয়াইন, তোমরা খেগুর কোন সম্পত্তি আমি নিছি বা নেওয়ার দরকার আছিল আমার, বা দরকার আছে আমার, এক ফুয়ার কাছ থেকে আমি 70 পাউন্ড নিছি ব্রিকলেইনও। এই ফুয়ায় জানে তার নাম কিতা। ফুয়ায় যদি চ্যালেঞ্জ করে আমারে অন দি রেকর্ড, আমি বাকি কইব মনে। ফর এক্সাম্পল, হে কিলা মাইকেল ক্রুকর গুলামি করছে, আর মাইকেল ক্রুকরে খুশি করবার লাগি তার রেস্টুরেন্ট থেকে আমারে কোর্ট অর্ডার দিছে বারোই দিতাম কি, কারণ মাইকেল ক্রুকরে আমি শান্টিং দেওয়াত আসলাম এই সময়। এই ফুয়া এখন মুখ ফুলাইয়া এখন মাতে না, জবাব দেয় না। এই ফুয়া জবাব দে, নাইলে চ্যালেঞ্জ করা মারে অন দি ফ্যাক্টস। বেইমানে মাতিস না। বলবীর উন্নতম শির, শির নেহারি আমারি, নত শির ওই শিকর হিমাদ্রির। আমি এইগু কবিতা নজরুলের কবিতা বড় করে কইলেও আর খান্দার রুমও এক বেটি এগু আছে আইয়া সিআইর বিয়াই দেয়। গতিকে আমি মাতিয়ার না এগু রাইত রেকর্ড করি, আর গতিকে আমি এগু পুরা দিনও রেকর্ড করব যে প্রোগ্রাম, তখন আমি সারা নজরুলের বিদ্রোহী কবিতা আমি পড়িম। কান্ডারি হুঁশিয়ারে পড়িম। আচ্ছা, সিলেটর একমাত্র রেডিক্যাল নাম করা কবি দিলওয়ার। দিলওয়ারের লগে আমার সম্পর্ক কিতা? এই মাখাল ফুয়াইন। তোমরা কোন সম্পর্ক ইলা আসনি? আমার দুই আত্মীয়। একজন আমার নানা আরমান আলী চৌধুরী, সিলট গভর্নমেন্ট স্কুলের সংস্কৃতর হেড আসলা। আর আমার আপন চাচা মসদ্দর আলী, এই তো সেন্ট্রাল বাংলাদেশ গভর্নমেন্টর এক্সপোর্ট ডিপার্টমেন্টের সেক্রেটারি আসলো, যখন তাই অ্যাক্সিডেন্টে মারা যায় 1989। একদিন অ্যাক্সিডেন্টালি আমার লগে দেখা ব্রিক লেন দিলওয়ারর। আর আমি তো দিলওয়ারে মাতিয়ান না, আমি বইতে আছি, আমি চা খাওয়াতে আসলাম ব্রিক লেন এক রেস্টুরেন্টও। তখন একজনে কয়, দিলওয়ারে কয় যে আপনি চিনয়নি হকবাই চিনয়নি? দিলওয়ারে কয় না। তখন ও মানুষে কয় যে এই নিলে আপনার টিচারর কুটুম। টিচার হইলা গিয়া আরমান আলী চৌধুরী একজন, আর আরেকজন হইল মাসুদ্দর আলী। দুইজন আসলা দিলওয়ারের টিচার ইন সাকসেশন, একলগে নাই। ইগানো নিয়া দিলওয়ার উঠিয়া এখন আঞ্জা করি বেটায় দৌড়ছে আমারে, আর ছাড়ে না। এই মাখালের ফুয়াইন, তোমরা কোনো গুরে দিলওয়ারে ইলা আঞ্জা করে দৌড়ছে নি, আর সম্মান দিছে নি, আর স্বীকৃতি দিছে নি? তোমরা খেগুয়ে দিলওয়ারে ফড়াইছে মাখালের ফুয়াইন। আর মাসুয়া ফুয়া কয় হে বলে চৌধুরী। এই মাসুয়া ফুয়ার চৌধুরীগিরি আমি আরো দিন আলাপ করব। পয়লা কথা, চৌধুরী বলিয়া কোনো জিনিস বর্তমানে নাই। চৌধুরী হইতে কোনো জিনিস 1949 বা 50 বাদে নাই, বা 51 নাই, যে ইয়ারও পাকিস্তান গভর্নমেন্ট এইটা অ্যাবলিশ করছে, ও ইয়ার চেক করলে পাওয়া যাইব। চৌধুরীগিরি অ্যাবলিশ করার লাগে আন্দোলন খেয়া আছিল রে। ওই তোর কোনগু বিয়ানের কোনগু যে মুসলমান কোনগু নাই, হিন্দু বেটাইনতে আর হিন্দু বেটিনতে আন্দোলন করছেন 2000 থেকে করিয়া এই চৌধুরীগিরি অ্যাবলিশ করাইছেন। জাননি রে ফুয়াইন, ইতিহাস জাননি? বেঙ্গলির গুলাম ফুয়াইন। এক ফুয়াই ইমেইল সার্কুলেট করছে, এক গুলাম ফুয়াই সার্কুলেট করে কইছে আমার কথা, কইছে যে কমিউনিটির কোনো সাহায্যত আমার কোনো অবদান নাই। এই ফুয়ারে দরজুল্লাহ চিনে। দরজুল্লাহ চিনে। আর এই ফুয়া আমার কাছে মাফ চাইতো। মাফ যদি চায় না ডাইরেক্টলি, তো দরজুল্লাহরে দিয়া এই ফুয়ারে দি মাফ চাওয়াইয়া লইম। কারণ শান্টিং এমন ভাবে যাইব দরজুল্লাহর বিরুদ্ধে যে দরজুল্লাহ উয়া ফেলাইতে পারতো না। 2006 যখন তুরন মিয়ার দোকানও হ্যানবারি স্ট্রিট, আমরা হেড অফিস খদিলার হেড অফিস চলতো রাত 2টা-3টা পর্যন্ত। তখন অবায়তনে যায় দরজুল্লাহ, আর তুরনের দোকানও তারা থামে। দরজুল্লাহ তখন অ্যাক্টিভ কাউন্সিলর, নাইলে অ্যাটলিস্ট লেবার পার্টির অ্যাক্টিভ মেম্বার। আর দরজুল্লাহর মুখও মদর গন্ধে খান্দা দুবাইল যায় না। মেইন কারণ হইল তারা ডরায় তারার বিরুদ্ধে পার্সোনালি আমরা ক্ষুদিলার ক্যাম্পেইন থেকে কোনো নয়া উদ্যোগ নিয়ে আননি, কোনো পদক্ষেপ নিয়ে আননি। কারণ হল বাংলাদেশে যদিও কাউন্সিলর তখন আসিল পোস্ট 2006 ও 2005 এগুন তো ডর হইল তারা যে কাউন্সিলর পদ আড়ায়নি, তারা ডরি কেন না যে তারা সুর হিসাবে প্রমাণিত হইব, বেইমান হিসাবে প্রমাণিত। কারণ তারার বংশর মেজরিটি যে বেইমান ফুয়াইন, এদের বংশ বেইমান। যে একটা এই ইমরান খানে খর ওই যে নওয়াজ শরীফ রে আর তার ভাই শাহজ শরীফ রে আর ওই ভুট্টোর নাতিরে বেলাওয়াল ভুট্টুরে বেইমানার ফুয়াইন। ইন্ডিয়ার যে টিপু সুলতানে যে ফাইট করছেন ব্রিটিশের বিরুদ্ধে, এই বেইমানের ফুয়াইন তো জানেন টিপু সুলতানের কথা, সিরাজদৌল্লার কথা না জানে ইনডিরেক্টলি, কিন্তু টিপু সুলতানের যে সাহস, যে বীরত্ব এবং যে ফারসাইটেডনেস, যে অ্যাবিলিটি, এটাই ফুয়াইন তো জানেনি। টিপু সুলতানের কথা যদি আমরা ধরি, তাহলে ব্রিটিশের বিরুদ্ধে টিপু সুলতানের যে অ্যাচিভমেন্ট, এটা যে বর্তমানে বাংলাদেশ দেখান, এখানোর কোন পলিটিক্যাল লিডার ওর রেকর্ডও আছে ওভার দ্য লাস্ট 1000 ইয়ার্স। আমি কম 1000 বছর আনো, এর মাঝে 12 বইয়ারেও ধরো, কিন্তু 1000 বছরের ইতিহাস যদি আনো, তবু টিপু সুলতানর 30 বছরের, লেটসে টিপু সুলতান মারা গেছেন 50 বছর বয়স হইবার আগে, বা অ্যারাউন্ড 50, তো 20 বছর বয়সও মনে করলাম যে টিপু সুলতান ইয়াং, যে বাকি যে 30 বছর, দ্যাট কুড ম্যাচ 300 years spent by so many other so-called leaders. ইগুনতে কন যে শেখ মুজিব শ্রেষ্ঠতম মানুষ, শ্রেষ্ঠতম বাঙালি, ওই মাখালের ফুয়াইন শ্রেষ্ঠতম ওই বকিলা, শ্রেষ্ঠতম আর বাপ হইল গিয়ে আব্দুল হামিদ খান বাসানি, একবারে খানদান। মানুষে দেখছেন, এখনো মানুষ জিতার হইছেন যে দেখছেন শেখ মুজিবে ফাউদরি মৌলানা বাসানিরে সালাম করছে। এই জায়গাত শেখ মুজিব শ্রেষ্ঠতম খিলা হইল কোন মাপকাঠিতে? কোন ইভেন্টে? শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকর তুলনায় শেখ মুজিবর গুণ যদি লিস্ট করা যায়, কোন পয়েন্টে গিয়ে শেখ মুজিব তাকে শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকরে তুলনা করলে কম এবিলিটি, কম অ্যাচিভমেন্ট হিসাবে দেখা যায়? আসলে কনটেক্সচুয়ালি এই সময়, যে সময় শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকে আন্দোলন করছেন, এই সময় শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকর এবিলিটির লগে শেখ মুজিবর এবিলিটির কোনো তুলনা হয় না, বিকজ শেখ মুজিব কুড নট। যে সময় পাকিস্তানের ফ্রিডম আছিল, ইস্ট পাকিস্তান ফ্রি কান্ট্রি হিসাবে, তখনও শেখ মুজিবে কোনো ওয়াইড রেঞ্জিং কোনো অ্যালায়েন্স পলিটিক্যালি আনতে পারছেন না, আনার কোনো চিহ্ন দেখাইছেন না। অথচ শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকরে নন বেঙ্গলি মানুষে স্বীকৃতি দিছে, যে ধরনের খামর্দার স্বীকৃতি দিছে ব্রিটিশের বিরুদ্ধে, যে জাতীয় স্ট্র্যাটেজিক কারণে, স্ট্র্যাটেজিক আইডিয়াজ স্বীকার করিয়া তারা দিছে তার নাম শেরে বাংলা। সিমিলার কারণে বেঙ্গলি বেটি, খুব ট্যালেন্টেড বেঙ্গলি বেটি ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গলর সরোজিনী নাইডু, সরোজিনী বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় বিয়া হইয়া নাম হয়েছে নাইডু। সরোজিনী নাইডু মোহাম্মদ আলী জিন্নারে 1917 ইংরেজির যে বায়োগ্রাফি, পলিটিক্যাল বায়োগ্রাফি সরোজিনী নাইডু লেখছেন মোহাম্মদ আলী জিন্নার তারিফ করিয়া। এইগুলার ফিল্ড গিয়া তুলনা করলে দেখা যায় যে সিমিলারলি শেরে বাংলা ফজলুল হকর পক্ষে এই জাতীয় তারিফ করা যায়। And many examples. মাখালোর ফাইনতে ব্রিকলেনের নাম অ্যাবিউজ করে। তারা বেঙ্গলি লিডার আয়, সুর ডাকাইত বাটপার আবদাল কুফার চৌধুরী আরো তারা মঞ্চ দেয়। আবদাল কুফার চৌধুরী অন দি রেকর্ড হয়েছে যে সিলেটি ভাষা, সিলেটি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ হলো জঙ্গলি ভাষা। Let us consider this. সিলেটি ভাষা যে জঙ্গলি ভাষা, এর চাইতে বড় আপত্তিকর কথা হইতে পারেনি। Let's examine the alleged anti-Bengali language speech made by Muhammad Ali Jinnah in 19 well in his last speech, not in 1952, but the events of 1952 were related to the Bengali language movement, so called. Jinnah only said that Urdu alone shall be the official language of Pakistan. That was an opinion. That was not an act of parliament. That was not a law. It was an opinion expressed at the very early stage of Pakistan. It was an opinion. It did not condemn the Bengali language as a language of the jungle. অথচ এই মাখাল ফাইনতে গুলাম ফাইনতে আবদাল কুফার চৌধুরী দাওয়াত দিয়া আনিয়া খাওয়াইন আর মঞ্চ দেন, আর ইগে কয় সিলেটি হইল কি জঙ্গলি ভাষা। ওই মাখালের ফুয়াইন, গুলামর ফুয়াইন, তোমরা কোন রাইট আছে রে গুলামর ফুয়াইন কইতা যে তোমরা সিলেটি? And it goes on. কুমার মুর্শিদে ডাকাতি করিলাই, করিয়া নেয় গিয়ে আন্দোলন সারা, আর এই গুলাম ফাইনতে দালালি করেন। এসে কুমার মুর্শিদ দেখা যায় লাম্বা চুরি জড়িত, কনভিক্টেড হয়েছে না, কিন্তু লাম্বা চুরি জড়িত। As I said, in the legal documentary evidential communication challenging Kumar Murshid, all of this will be detailed and substantiated. So he can reply, কোন বারিস্টারের ধরব জানি না, কিন্তু I welcome this boy to hire any barrister, soul cheater he likes. সূরা আল ইসরাত হওয়া হয়েছে যে সত্যের জয় অনিবার্য। দেখি ফুয়ায় এই কথাটারে কিলা উল্টায় তার বেইমানি দিয়া। Ken lying still Livingstone doesn't know Tower Hamlets anymore than Ken lying still Livingstone knows any other borough where he is not permanently lived for decades. And yet he chose Tower Hamlets. Ken lying still Livingstone chose Tower Hamlets for a start, and then, of all the people in Tower Hamlets, he ends up discovering the talent of Kumar Morshid. Morshid is an illegal immigrant, and he was employed by an illegal, corrupt bank of BCCI. And his illegal status was discussed, let's say, in a bogus letter that he helped draft with the signature of Ashraful Islam at the expense of the organization then known as THARJ and sent to the UK Home Office. It's a lengthy letter. Every single sentence is full of praise of this Kumar Morshid. Every single thing that has been mentioned in praise of Kumar Morshid is a strange item of news to the ordinary people in Tamils. But whatever the lies, Morshid had to depend on Silotis. Apparently, when people from Silot go to Dhaka, when Morshid is in Dhaka, let's say, they're hardly ever invited to Morshid's apparently affluent family home. Where did the affluence come from? The contempt with which the Silotis are seen, even by the ones that these Silotis go out of their way to give support to in their settlement in the UK. Cannot be justified by comparing anything that Jinnah said about Bengali language. He did not say anything against Bengali language. He said things about Urdu language, not quite the same thing. In any case, when I went to an event organized in the Osborne Street by Irshad Hussein's former ambassador to France, a very dodgy individual based in Birmingham called Tony Hawk. And it was supposed to be celebrating the Bengali language and its international status. So on the platform there was a placard or a banner written in English. Obvious point. I said, how do you write in English when you are supposed to be marking the success of the Bengali language? And that so upset Abu Tahir, previously known as Abu Tahir Singh Company, who has since become a Chaudhry. Abu Tahir became so upset that for months after that he stopped talking to me. That is the level of idiocy and servility. Tony Hawk is a crook. In any case, that particular objection by me was actually something that was praised by a man who was attending the event from the Bangladesh High Commission. And that man, at least for the temporary period after my intervention, continued communication with me and along the lines that he agreed with me, and it was logical, it was rational, and all the rest of it. The point I make now, many years later, to Abu Tahir, Kalam Chaudhry, Abu Tahir Singh Kapani, is this: where is the Bengali language in its official use in Bangladesh itself? What part of Bengali does Abu Tahir Singh Kapani represent? Does Abu Tahir Chaudhry remember the event held at the Udam Center in 2006 and 7? July 2006 and 7, I think, where he organized the event. After a leaflet was circulated in the Brick Lane area, making allegations against Abu Tahir Singh Kapani or Kalam Chaudhry, that he, Abu Tahir Singh Kapani or Kalam Chaudhry, was involved with the crooks. Fast solution. After Abu Tahir Singh Kapani invited me to attend, I attended it in good faith. And I spoke there in good faith. And there was a huge picture of me published in the Bengali language outlet that Abu Tahir was connected with. But the huge picture was not accompanied by any content based on what I said. I asked Abu Tahir Chaudhry why. Why did he leave all the stuff that I said there? Most of what I said was unique and uniquely praised by the people present. Why did Abu Tahir leave that out? In any case, the meeting was not covered in that paper, Bangla Post, as being about the allegations against Abu Tahir Chaudhry. The meeting was wrongly and falsely falsified by Abu Tahir to come across as being about the Bengali paper Bangla Post. The leaflet that had been circulated by Abdul Salik, according to the claims, that leaflet was nothing to do with Bangla Post. That leaflet was directly naming Abu Tahir as a complicit fraudster with Mahi Ferdaus Jalil and others with the fast solution corruption and criminality. Why did Abu Tahir completely falsify the whole event? Raising the question about George Galloway, there were several articles that Bangla Post carried, giving credit or attributions to George Galloway, who was Member of Parliament at the time for the constituency of Bracknell Green and Bow. Every time Bangla Post carried a piece by George Galloway or a piece giving credit to George Galloway, I wrote a response, I wrote a reply, and every time Abu Tahir promised that my reply or response would be published. It never was. Did Abu Tahir tell a lie every time he spoke to me, or did somebody else suppress the piece? If it was, who was it that suppressed the piece or pieces? Abu Tahir Chaudhry or Kalam Chaudhry, Abu Tahir Singhafani or Kalam Chaudhry, said in front of a witness in the corner of the street where his house is, in front of a witness. The witness is a man from Borishal, Bula. Is it Shamsur Rahman? I have to check the name Shamsur Rahman or Sam Rahman. That man is not an ordinary resident of our hamlets, but has, for strategic personal reasons, acquired private properties in Tower Hamlets. The man's ambition was to become a Lib Dem politician. The man has been sabotaged by his own duplicity. But he did witness my conversation with Abu Tahir. When I accused Abu Tahir of all kinds of falsifications, and Abu Tahir protested, saying that I had given people so many kind of names, as if my giving those people the names constituted some kind of wrongdoing. I only assigned names based on their behavior. I didn't invent anything. I didn't make up anything. And I didn't distort or deny the evidence ever. I never shall, and I never have done, never had done, never have done, never will do, never do. So we are looking at, what time are we looking at? Looking at the time. It's 1 hour, 38 minutes. It's coming up to 2 o'clock local time. When Lutfur Rahman was forced to have a meeting with me sometime between March and I think April 2014, Lutfur Rahman committed a series of wrongs at that meeting, in holding that meeting. Because that meeting was nothing to do with Lutfur Rahman's personal relationship with me. I had no personal relationship with Lutfur Rahman. I don't have, I never will have, I never had. That meeting was supposed to discuss series of criminality, wrongdoing done by Tower Hamlets Council and by Lutfur Rahman. So the meeting should have been attended along with Lutfur Rahman by at least 2 senior post holders in the mayor's department, if not from other departments. Instead, the meeting was not attended by any known employee in post at the time of Jobless Council. It was Lutfur Rahman and then this infant called Jubair Ahmad. I call him the infant Jubair Ahmad because when he challenges me, I shall give the details of his entire life history. How dare this boy, Jubair Ahmad, lie to me, lie about me? So there was this infant Jubair Ahmad, and there were a couple of others. And then, as I was waiting there for the meeting to start, I saw a man appear as if he had been running and he has been sweating as he was running. Probably he was told to come as fast as possible because of the need to start the meeting. Who was that man? Abu Tahir. Now, why would he go there? I asked him as he was going in before I entered myself. He refused to answer me properly. And he only partially said that he had been asked to come. I had not asked him to come. So when the meeting began, I asked Lutfur Rahman, why were these people there? And Lutfur Rahman was very tense. He didn't answer. Now, Lutfur Rahman can never answer truthfully any question anyway. But before the actual substance of the claims against our Hamlet's Council could begin, both this infant Jubair and Abu Tahir found excuses to say that they had other things to do and they had to leave, which meant that Lutfur Rahman was continuing to abuse his position and insult me and do damage to the community. That was the second meeting where Lutfur Rahman had this infant Zubair. The first meeting was on the 20th of September 2012, held in the, probably it's a restaurant no longer there, called Marco or something, in the new road, not far down the road from my own home of long standing. So that was typical of Lutfur Rahman, having no council employees present to take notes or make an official record of the meeting. Lutfur Rahman can expect the follow-up legal demands that have been overdue. And Abu Tahir can expect legal demands as to why he was there. What on earth was he doing there? And what legal authority did Lutfur Rahman have to have any of them? And what each of those present there, what legal authority did they have? When I had a number of meetings with Rabina Khan behaved in the slipperiest way, most unreliable, dishonest, and creepy way possible. Did she think that she was being cleverer than me, or what? Where is she? Is she an MP for the Lib Dems or sucking up to the Lib Dems in the House of Peers? Rabina Khan claims, according to this liar, Mark Baines, who is no longer alive, that she was the most attentive constituency councillor. She was nothing of the sort. She cannot be attentive to anything except her very narrow interest zones. Shadwell is the ward, council ward, that contains the largest per capita number of criminals coming from the Bangladeshi background. How did they become so grossly involved in crimes and criminality in Shadwell, where Rabina Khan is the most overhyped local councillor? Rabina Khan is a serial plagiarizer of issues. She has a kind of corrupt deal with the Independent online. Whenever there is an issue, Rabina Khan surfaces as a commentator. And reading the comments, there is no iota of truth in what she says. In fact, she says nothing. She collects various interpretations and paraphrases them and puts them under her name. And then she's described in her entry, wiki entry, which is completely false, as a writer, novelist, storyteller, this, that, and the other. She is one of the most fantasy prone individuals going in the so called Tower Hamlets politics. The Lib Dems, who have adopted her foolishly, are as racist now as they were before. And despite the fact that Rabina Khan is the one that has replaced their previous white kind of female, quote, star candidate for every seat, they have not made any headway. In fact, the Lib Dems are losing support. In fact, they have no program. Not in Tower Hamlets, not in Newham, not in main parts of London. Rabina Khan is a party to the collusion from Tower Hamlets Council with the crooks in Tower Hamlets community housing. That collusion has involved the organized theft of huge volumes of intellectual properties, original intellectual properties created, organized, mobilized by me and the movements that I mobilize and organize and operate and promote and advocate. So Rabina Khan can expect a comprehensive, detailed set of legal demands. Where would she take them? What could barrister will she take them to? I don't see anyone in the whole of the corrupt bar that she can take them to and convert the lies to the truth. She will have to tell the truth. admit to the truth, and begin the process of paying the damages and the compensations. She lied about the period of Parda. When I wanted to have the meeting with her shortly before the 2014 election, Rabina Khan told a member of the staff in the mayor's office who was also working as her kind of PA, admin staff, that Rabina Khan had said she could not have a meeting with a constituent because of a Parda. How dare Rabina Khan lie like that? Who told her to lie like that to me? So Rabina Khan is one of the dozens of liars that have been complicit with Luther Rahman's lies and lying and corruption. And the corruption has not only not stopped, but there is no evidence, there is no sign that any of the perpetrators is even aware of their obligations to atone for the lies, express remorse, apologize, and start compensating people, the victims of their criminality and their lying and their wrongdoing and their denials and their complicity and their collusions. I mean, on the record, the only Tower Hamlets councillor who is on the record as showing any positive opinion about my role in the community has been one person who was a deputy for a time. And he did that. I think, although it is not clear, but he must have said the things he said about me under influence from other people, including from Lutfi Rahman. Because he, this individual, knew that he had done wrong. For example, on the 14th of September 2010, at the Troxy, where I was filming the gathering, this individual came from behind and pushed me from behind. So I sent a letter or a number of letters to Lutfi Rahman asking for this individual to apologize or words to that effect. There was no apology. There was no acknowledgement. But I think in a circular way, they conspired to stage an appreciation of me on the occasion of my asking a formal question to the full council. I shall come to that, more of that later, not necessarily in this edition, because this particular edition is coming to about the length of 2 hours, I think, 1 hour, 53 minutes or 54 minutes. So we shall be going on for a few more minutes and then we shall call this one to an end. As I said in various editions before, the so-called petitioners against Lutfi Rahman have been behaving unjustifiably since Richard Morris' ruling of the 23rd of April 2015, because these petitioners, I make an exception about one particular petitioner out of the four, Debbie Simmons. She was not part of the cabal. So I take her out of the particular list, and I don't condemn her for the time being for the reasons I've just stated, because she's not part of the other three. Those other three, especially Ajmal Hussain, has been grossly sucking up to John Biggs to such an extent that in June 2016, Ajmal Hussain made an entry into the micro business center, and he pushed past me as he went into the meeting, and he walked straight to sit next to John Biggs. Ajmal Hussain owes an apology for that. And if he doesn't, he will be receiving the legal letter. Ajmal Hussain, going back to Sylhet, has no background to behave that way to me, ever, anywhere. And if we talk about the defense of this community, Ajmal Hussain should not be not only apologizing to me for that behavior 100 times, but he should be doing it forever, for the rest of his life. Ajmal Hussain appeared in Brick Lane from nowhere. And if the evidence he admitted as presented before the election commissioner Richard Mori is to be believed, then Ajmal Hussain is a self-confessed thief, fraudster. He stole money from the Swedish government. So Ajmal Hussain is not fit to make a claim as he did make on the 23rd of April 2015 in the pub, where there was a so-called press conference after the Richard Mori verdict. The Tower Hamlets Council, that he meant Tower Hamlets Council, is not corrupt anymore. That is to say, that corruption had ended as soon as Richard Mori gave the ruling against Lutfur Rahman that Mori did give on that day, 3 minutes earlier. That shows that Ajmal Hussain doesn't know Tower Hamlets and that he doesn't have any respect for any of the campaigns in defense of the community in Tower Hamlets. The fact that he sucked up to John Biggs is not something I'm saying. That fact has been remarked on, commented on by other people who know how closely Ajmal Hussain has served John Biggs. That is inconsistent with any claim that Ajmal Hussain can ever make against corruption, against criminality, abuse, unaccountability, etc. As for the UKIP woman, who was one of the other three, other than Debbie Simmons, what can she probably do that will be against corruption and criminality? That UKIP woman, as she was known on the date, has not been heard of or heard from about corruption in the time that has passed since the 23rd of April 2015. As for Andrew Arlam, He is a proven liar and a racist creep. What on earth was this proven liar and racist creep doing? Posing. Posing as a petitioner against electoral fraud and corruption. Because after that so called petition, this idiot stood not once, more than once, as a candidate for election as mayor of Tar Hamlets. And he did that after saying that he wanted to oppose the corrupt post of the elected mayor. How much more extensive must the evidence be of how stupid these people are and have been and remain to show the reasons why there is still this post of elected mayor which is corrupt, corrupting. We shall be continuing seeking answers and explanations factually, nothing but factual, to all these questions and issues and matters in due course. This is time to put an end to this particular edition, which is 2 hours and 1 minute, just about. And the time on the clock, is 0109 hours GMT, which is 9 minutes past 2 British Standard Time, so called, on Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022.